This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Spiritual Psychic with Sara Wiseman, where you'll learn how to unlock the secrets of spiritual intuition and your own psychic gifts. Here's Sara.
Welcome everyone to Visionary Psychics. I'm Sara Wiseman and I am here today with one of our visionary psychics, Susan RAMPSON. So Susan, welcome to these sessions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just recalling, I have not met all of the visionary psychics in person, but I remember you and I met at an event in Denver, I think, years ago, and then we've just been in connection since then. So that was a super serendipitous thing that's happened.
That was great, for sure.
Yeah. So you're super interesting because you have this very interesting background that is very science and technology oriented, and you have this intuitive piece. And I'd love to just have you talk about how these mesh for you, or how these parts make sense. They seem on the surface so different, but maybe they're not. Mm-hmm. How does that work for you?
Yeah, I guess it goes all the way back to when I was really, really little, and I was connecting intuitively in nature to different parts of nature, and that actually started my interest in science, because I wanted to learn about nature and I wanted to learn about rocks and then fossils or whatever, and it started from there. And so you think that they're on opposite sides of the stick, but what really was great about having a foot in both of those places is the science, the curiosity about science and being able to explain things with science really propelled me into this just seeking, how do I explain what's happening? Mm-hmm. This doesn't, everything everybody tells me doesn't explain what was happening right here. And that just drove me for my whole life.
Wow, this continual curiosity to learn, to learn using multiple systems.
Right.
Yeah.
And to explore. It was just always so interesting and always never a boring moment, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When you are working in intuition now, so what's striking to me is when I organize my thoughts in third eye with clairvoyance, I'm always kind of struck by, for me, it always appears like you can use it like a computer screen, like you click on a folder and then you go deeper into a journey, or it feels like it's like a video game, like you go and you see the apple and then you take the apple and then you get the key from the apple and then you go. Why do you think that this journeying is so similar to how we're working now with screens? What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, boy, that's so interesting. I never even thought about it that way, because most of my connection on the intuitive level has always been visual on screen, even dreaming, right? Or visioning, in a light trance, or just imagining it. Although I always was striving to see things materialize or see auras around people, or that was because I was so visual, and then also feeling and knowing. So, and the other thing that happened was in my science quest along the way, I became involved in computers, and I am 100% almost a day in front of a computer. So, yeah, that I think it's made it easier for me to keep visualizing, but the opposite side of that is I have to intentionally stop and get away from the
Yeah.
screen and reconnect.
Yeah, reconnect to the, I think a lot lately about how even 10 years ago, we weren't so screen focused, or we didn't. I'm thinking of screens as a portal, like we think
Mhm.
of third eye work as a portal, or places on the earth as portals. Um, but the screens are portals too. I mean, they take us everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and so sometimes it's good to just be in your immediate environment, like with your plant behind you, just like, well, I'm just going to be with the plant for a while and just
You
kind of
can't see this, but I am absolutely surrounded by
covered
plants.
you.
God, I'm here, there, everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to remind me that I'm, still part of nature here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, as you've been working with people intuitively, what kinds of things have surprised you? Or I'm not really sure what I'm asking. I'm just kind of
I'll
seeing
tell
what would
you,
come to your mind.
that's a great question because um, it took me so many years to trust what I saw, that it was real, a real source of information. And you helped me with that a lot. Thank you. But I mean, it took me like 50 years to get there. And so I'm always astonished when I just feel like I'm just the messenger, not emotionally attached to the message, but and I'm not trying to interpret it too much. I want the person to tell me what it means to them. But when they tell me, oh my gosh, I know what that means. Means this, or, oh, that person that's handing a plant, that means that was what we needed to know. My husband wanted to start a farm, or, things like that. It was like confirmation for them. When I hear those things, I'm almost like in shock,
Yeah.
wow, that definitely wasn't me, but I guess I delivered the message right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it shocks me too. And I've been doing this, for so long now. How can it be that something can just get picked out of the air and provided to another person, and that's the correct thing? Um, and sometimes these things that we receive are so strange and weird, like we're receiving them, we have no idea what they mean, and then in providing them, and yet, like you said, it makes sense to the other person. But how can that? And of course, it's all about, being in oneness, and
Mm-hmm.
being not only interconnected, but being of the same essence, that of course we can know,
Yep.
what we are, because that's what we are.
Yeah. I think just what you just said about that is important. It's available to all of us to
Mhm.
tap in and pick that out of the air. And you'll often hear like artists or songwriters say, it just came to me, or
Yeah.
but it's always there. We just have to access it. And sometimes things are wacky because that's how they need to get through our filters. That's what
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Tell us, talk a little bit more about this idea of filters. What is that? How are you using that? What does that mean to you?
So sometimes this is just the way I see it, could be different for anybody else. We have some, I'll say biases, right? We have some predetermined, like things that we've grown up to learn, or a way we think about something. Let's just say it that there's a way we think about the world, or a way we think about something. And it like has to come to us that way in order for us to notice it, or believe that it's true. So you've often mentioned like, why are the guides wearing robes all the time? That's just, we trust people in long robes for some reason. I don't know. But I will sometimes with a guide or somebody that's trying to get something across to me, they'll go, it's almost like a cartoon, or they'll go out of their way to make it kooky,
Yeah.
my attention. And then I'm like, okay, so I should be paying attention to this and passing it on.
Right, right. They're making it, yeah, like I've spoken a lot about my dad who's departed will often come in a Hawaii shirt as a departed. That's his normal, that's his vacation clothing that he enjoys. But then when he's trying to make a different point, like he'll come in a business suit. It's like, okay, paying attention to that
Right.
thing that's sticking out or that thing that's catching our attention differently to help us make sure we're receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a sense of humor in this whole thing. That's what I've noticed. Like one of my guides is this old man, of course, in a brown robe, like almost like, got like crazy white hair. And I said, "What is your name?" And he said, "Wiser."
Right.
All right, you're wiser. I get it.
You're, and my other guide's smarter. Yeah, it's funny. It's great. So one thing I noticed, I was looking at your website, and we'll put that information below. But you have two practices, one which I knew about and the other that I didn't. So, but they're both body practices, and I'm kind of finding as I'm talking to some of the people that are doing the visionary psychics, a lot of people have body practice. Some people have yoga, some people have running or this and that, and you do qigong. And how does that, what happens for you intuitively when you're in that practice?
Yeah, I've learned so much through qigong that there's like two important things. The reason I started doing it was I wanted to move in a way that wasn't going to hurt me.
Yeah.
And it's so great for that. But also, I want to help people experience something that they might kind of be like ignoring or filtering out. And that is that they can actually feel their chi, their life force. And there's a couple of ways to feel it. And so I wanted to teach a little bit of that so they could have their own firsthand experience of something that's a little, it's totally normal, but they might think it's paranormal. So just to say, hey, there's something else going on that is so cool that you could experience for yourself. And qigong helps you build that life force and build that strength of your chi. And it, for health, obviously, but it also movement helps you release a lot of things. So I'm just finding that it's just good for so many things. Those three things right there.
Do you find when you're when I'm on a bike ride, say, which I love, I'll often set a question in at the start of the bike ride, and then use the trance of the movement and so forth, and I will receive the answer. Is that in qigong? I would imagine quite a bit comes through as answers, even if you're not even sure what your question is that day.
Right. Yeah, you when you start moving, so I'll say this happens to me even if I'm vacuuming a lot of rooms or something, or in the shower. But qigong actually, when you're moving things, it's almost like another way of unblocking your energy. Like one way is with acupuncture, for example. It's very, very precise, but qigong is more generally will unblock, and then you can get your download because things are moving and things are unblocked, and you often will. And sometimes it happens when you're doing the movements, and other times when you've stopped doing the movements and you've got all this stuff coming through, and it's just like, write it down, that was great.
Yeah. Well, I even noticed in ecstatic dance, which is a gentle movement, what I noticed showing up in the room, which very much surprised me, like all of us have had this COVID experience of how much can happen in a 6 by 8 foot room. At least my office is really little, and a lot can happen. And in doing ecstatic dance, maybe just dancing, and then like a portal will show up, like there's a doorway in the room, and like, okay, walk through the door. It's a very interesting, like it's journeying not just in third eye, but we're like journeying in the body, like we're moving into different dimensions by our body movement, which is the conscious movement, I guess.
Yep.
So so here's the part that surprised me, and I didn't know we had this overlap, but you have on your website that you did tap dancing, and I also did tap dancing. And so I want to talk about this trance. Like in tap dancing, you have to keep track of a lot. You have to keep track of your sides, you have to keep track of the rhythm, you have to keep track of your counting in the forward. And so how does that play into all of this experience for you?
Yeah. So tap dancing, I did that one when I was really little in dancing school, but I started when I was 3 and I went till I was like 14 or something. But that is mathematical to me. So
Yes.
it's the science part of my head. It's like, got to get the right answer about this. And there's, it's very, you do it right or you do it wrong. It's not very, there's a whole creative side to it, but getting the steps right is mathematical, right? To me, there's no overlap, gray area, I would say.
See,
Yeah.
well, that's so interesting, because me, as a non-math style brain, I always found I could never memorize it. I could never count it. I just had to like wing it, and it would be right. Like I had to copy it by not trying to get it right. So it's almost like two different ways of getting to the same answer, which is interesting.
And a lot of repetition.
Yeah, getting them up. Well, and that's thank you. That's excellent, because that is actually, when we're doing this work, the practice is what allows us to keep having this channel or connection. We can't just once a month, okay, intuition practice. It's like it has to be a continual bridge or tethering, or I'm not sure what word to use, but we have to keep going there in order to keep that clear.
Yes, I learned that that's the only way to keep going further and further and further, having more and more and more experiences. Is just to keep doing it. If I have to stop for a while, or I can't get a quiet place or whatever, then I go back weeks later. It's kind of like I lose a little ground.
Yeah, that's why it's got to be this continual practice. And I think when people come, and maybe at the beginning it's kind of frustrating or confusing or maybe even scary, like to attempt to contact the guides, and just kind of keeping showing up, just like try it. And maybe the first day you let go of the edginess in your body, and the second day you kind of look at your fear, and the third day you start to notice some subtle things changing, and like then starting to notice like what's unusual or what's different or what's catching my eye, and kind of just bit by bit learning to navigate the other realms.
Yes, and also being still for longer than a couple of minutes. If you can build up to it, it's okay, however long it takes. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to sit for like hours and hours in one place, but you start to get a sense for how you're feeling inside and what's happening around you. And you start building up your sensitivity. And that's one of the ways that you can explore further, just because you're noticing things that you never noticed before because of distractions or filters.
Yeah. One thing that you and I have talked about that we're both super interested is in We're obviously not the only beings in the universe, right? Like that's pretty clear. Um, and in talking to some of the um, other people, some of the things that like there was a lot of discussion about like plant communication and animal communication and like are the guides are they what are like what are they? Are they other beings in different dimensions? Are they other beings on different planets? Like I don't really know. What have you what kind of thoughts have you been having around this idea of consciousness?
Yeah.
And it's certainly not just human consciousness.
Right, right. So when I was a child, I was tapping into nature, so plants. I did a lot of rock tapping into rocks because I liked rocks. What's it feel like to be you? Go there, come back. Um, and then when I was, I think, in fourth or fifth grade, we had to do a science fair. And I asked my father, because he's all mechanically inclined, I said, could you build me a lie detector so I could hook it up to my plants and see if I can like make the needle move? And he went like as far even to get the schematics to do it. Then we just couldn't pull it off in time. But they do like, like once you can start feeling them or sensing into them or connecting with them, you can feel their consciousness, you can kind of sense it. And same thing, so even with weather or water or other kinds of beings, not just animals, situations, for example, you can feel the consciousness of the situation. I was thinking even like systems in your body. And then I did, a lot of times when I'm talking to the guides, I do get guides come and go who are not human, and sometimes they're from other planetary systems, and sometimes they're just like something I can't even identify, as
Right.
I'm used to. But I have had experiences with consciousnesses and even ships that were definitely is this one of ours or is this theirs? And it was a direct connection with the consciousness associated with that ship. For example, the one that I saw, that was just still coming in and out of a dimension that I saw somebody I was with, but nobody else did in the middle of the day, and it was gigantic. So connecting with the consciousness, like it's, the ships are interesting, but it's who are these beings that are there, like why are they here? Well, there was never any was always peaceful and friendly and playful. So
yeah, and it's like when we take our mind to like say vastness or oneness, and then we can, even though we think that's the all of it, like I found we can also, I don't know how to explain this. To me, it feels like like maybe I don't really think of it this way, but like you could think of it as a rainbow, and then you can go up these different, purple, blue, whatever, green. I'm not being the wrong order, but or you can just kind of turn things a little, like you're in vastness, but then show me another view of vast. Like if vastness is complete consciousness, not that me as a person can really do that, but my part of me that's fully consciousness, all of us can do that. And then we go there, and then what if we turn it a little, or what if we look, we look in the past, we look in the future, we look up, we look down, we look up in different dimensionalities. And I don't really know, like I know how to get to the guides, I know how to get to the departed, I know how to get to plants, I know how to, I know how to get to past lives, but this idea of, okay, these other beings are click somewhere a little bit different, and like how can we go there? And I think we can go there. It's just practicing, like trying to
like of yourself as this hologram is a way, like something more than what you're perceiving 3D. You're in all the dimensions at the same time. Some part
Yes.
of you is, right? And if you can move your awareness to that part of you that's in that same place that they are, and it's probably the same for them. They're in 3D somewhere, right? But they're really good at the higher dimensions or the different dimensions where you can come in and out and travel that way.
Yeah. And it's
Next,
probably, yeah, well, it's just making me laugh. Like you said, humor, like we often get our information while we're in the shower, and probably like these other beings are taking their shower, whatever they do, and they're getting us. I don't know how that would work, but they're just doing something very ordinary. They probably don't have vacuums there. They probably have gone beyond that. Oh my goodness.
at least the ones that are visiting here, because I feel like, they've got to be pretty far advanced to be able to travel and
Yeah.
materialize, their technology or even their consciousness is in a ahead of us in
Yeah.
that way, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder though, like with how fast things have gone, like even since, the one that we all know of, like cell phones, like how fast that changed everything. And um, I don't know how many decades we are from travel and that kind of technology, but maybe I'm wondering, like maybe they're only a couple hundred years ahead. I don't know. I don't know.
They exist already. We're just
Yeah.
don't have access to them yet, but I do, and even they may exist in with some groups that are working on them. And then there are others that are actually talking about what they're doing. And they'll say, they're trying all these different ways to do travel, say, for example. So I think there's like a lot of work going on right now in all these different places and areas and mechanisms for things like travel and energy and healing.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty exciting. I can't imagine we won't see changes come
Some
very
of it.
fast.
Yeah. We won't see some of it. So when you're working with people in readings, so one of the things for humans in this here and now is like we have a lot of emotions. We go through a lot of, we might have had trauma, we might have had pain or confusion. What's your way of thinking about taking a person through the process, whatever situation they're in? You provide the information and then kind of helping them to process what you've been receiving. How do you think about that?
The way I usually think about it is I try to stay open before the reading. I'll just say, write down whatever comes to me. And by the way, like even that at that stage, and then even talking to a person, you kind of know immediately what the thing is, right?
Right.
Even if you're looking for an answer, you get the answer immediately because it's right there anyway. It's not like you have to wait for it to show up. So then I just want to listen to the person where they're, I need some context for
Mhm.
that, and
Mhm.
they need some from me as well. And then so I don't want to ever pressure somebody. I always want them to um, feel their way into what I'm conveying, the message that I'm giving, and because it's not, it's their message. So they have to say what it means, and I listen, and then I kind of help them along to interpret it, maybe a little bit to ask questions that'll spark that interpretation for them, and then also take them to the next step so that they have something to do at the end of the session, like some insight that they can act on, or something that they may want to change, or something they want to like a belief that they may want to release. I just kind of try to be very gentle and let them set the pace, pretty much.
And if, so I've noticed, a lot of people had to have a rough couple years. How do you, I'm not sure what I want to ask this. I was going to ask you how you deal with taking on people's emotions, but I feel like it's actually, I think I want to ask a different question. If you were to get a person who was super resistant, like you fully were receiving it, and then they were just saying, no, that's not what I want. That isn't how it is. How would you navigate around resistance? Because lots of people are resistant. Like even when we're not trying, sometimes we're so excited about a reading and we really want to get the answer we think we want, and then the universe is not providing that answer. How do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, a couple of ways. I do get that sometimes. Even just talking about these topics, you get that. And so the first thing I had to learn is that I am just a messenger. So my job is to deliver the message. If the person wants to accept the message, they can or not, because that's their free will. But sometimes people get stuck and they can't. The resistance is they're stuck, or they're so attached to this one outcome that they can't think of another outcome. Then I try to give them examples of that, where you have a kind of a larger view of what's happening, and you may be stuck on this outcome, but this is waiting to come in, and you can't come in until you let go of this outcome or clear it, or your house, get rid of your stuff. You taught me that, but still, it's just like they're mental blocks, they're physical things. Sometimes they're I know someone that was so attached to this one outcome that she kept asking me for more readings, and I said the message is not changing.
Yeah,
I don't want to, we can't have any more readings on this,
right.
You have to really take a different approach if you want to progress with this one thing, or you can be stuck here,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what you were.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think sometimes people get nervous in a reading because they think that we're some kind of oracle, which we're not. We're just a passageway from the message to them. And I think we do get super attached to what we want to hear. I remember working with someone long ago, and I had something in my life that I was just thinking it was going so great. It was just like the best ever. And the person said, just let go of the mantra that everything's perfect. And just like, it was just like, relax the expectation and look at what's actually happening. Like, let go of all the idea that it has to be a certain way, because it doesn't have to be any particular way. The universe can help us flow towards lots of pieces. So even just sometimes that relaxing of one concept, and then just noticing, like, just and that can be, and just that little piece, like maybe your client doesn't immediately start to accept what you're saying, but even if they have that idea meandering in their mind later, like, oh, what if there is another possibility? And in reality, there's probably
many
40,000. Yeah, but it's just like we get so stuck on
and
this
so
one
many
idea.
that are so much better than the
Yeah.
outcome they want. There's just so many wonderful possibilities, and when we are able to let go of the one we're holding on to so tight, it is amazing. You can't see it because it hasn't happened yet, but when you look in hindsight, you'll say like, oh, when I finally relaxed my expectation about this, all this wonderful stuff happened, and it would have never happened if
Yeah.
I'd done
Well, and
that.
that's why, like the way I have come to understand manifesting is like anti-manifesting. We don't go toward any particular goal, or maybe we have a goal, but we're kind of relaxed about it. And then we just watch where the universe is leading us through synchronicities and events and our journeying and so forth. And yeah, there's so many possibilities. And if we just follow where we're being led, that will usually take us to some pretty amazing adventures.
Yeah,
So,
and I don't think I've ever, I mean, I guess it could happen, but um, in my experience, they always get better. They don't get,
mhm.
there might be like a rough time, but the outcome when you're out the other end, it's so much better that I
Yeah.
learned to just like you said, even sometimes relaxing the idea you had that you wanted to hold on to, all of a sudden all these possibilities.
Yeah, yeah, like you couldn't even see before because you had your blinders on. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Well, Susan, thank you so much for being a part of our Visionary Psychics series, and I will put your information below. It's just been a delight to. I'm so glad we met in person. So glad we're continuing our relationship now. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.